Can you hear me? Sorry, I was like
Yeah,
cutting out
yeah,
for a sec.
yeah.
Okay.
Ironically, it was like
Yeah.
I start with the things that don't move, and then we froze up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. Had a couple technical difficulties at the beginning, but I think we're all rolling and ready to rock. I'm sitting down with an artist, a very cool dude that I found on Instagram, and really believe that I wanted to kind of showcase his work to a larger group of people that are maybe in my inner circle. But Chuy, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and to chat.
Hi, I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be a number of people who are listening or watching who are in your friend group, but there might be a couple people at least in up here in Canada who might not know you or might not know your work. So can you give me a little bit of a elevator pitch intro of who you are and maybe how you're best known?
I guess it would be from my band drawings. Instead of being a photographer, I'd be the dude on stage with the sketchbook drawing at Sound and Fury or like a bunch of like hardcore shows over the past like couple of years. Mm-hmm. Just doing like location drawings, I guess. And, that became, I don't know. It's kind of hard to put it into like a little elevator pitch, because like it's just something that happened like pretty randomly and like organically, like I did it for practice in the beginning and now like I'm trying to do it professionally,
Yeah.
But basically I just document shows through drawings.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that I want to hit on, especially like Scoped is, it's very in our brand, and just what we push is like documenting your scene, however that looks. And, for generally speaking, like photos or videos is kind of the first thing people think when they think of documenting hardcore music. But drawing is a little bit more of like a nicher thing. So I definitely want to touch on that. The one thing that I like to do with all our guests is get an idea of like where they came from as far as how they got into hardcore or punk music or going to shows in general. So let's start there, but I also want to chat a little bit about how you started just being into art, generally speaking, as well.
I kind of just grew up drawing, since I was like a little kid. My grandpa, who I never met, he was an animator for Disney. Like he was like one of like the OG animators. He did like Fantasia, like then did like all the Hanna-Barbera, like Scooby-Doo and all this stuff. And he was just kind of like this mythic person to me because like I always heard about him, but like I never like really had any other idea of him.
Sure.
And like I just kind of drew like on the side like throughout school, but like I mainly like played, I don't know, started like playing bands like when I was in the 7th grade. Like, and in the 8th grade, I remember like playing Burnout, like on the PSP, and Come Back to Wake the Dead was on there.
Yeah.
And like from there, like MySpace days, like the top 8 was just like the wormhole, like, and I just kept on getting into different bands,
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was like started off with like Combat Kid, Bane, and Final Fight, and like a few others, but I was also like that kid, like in high school, like where there's maybe like 4 people who are into hardcore, but like there's like a ton of punks, a ton of skinheads, like a ton of like rockabilly kids, like.
Sure.
But like I don't know, I played music for like a long time, and then I decided to like go to school for animation, like up in San Francisco, like right after high school, and I enjoyed it, but like I enjoyed like the drawing aspect way more, like I kind of like just like took to it, like I don't know. And like at the time it was Killing the Dreams like last show up in the Bay, like, and a few of my friends came up and stayed with me, and like we all went to the show. And then like after that trip, I got asked to like be in like this hardcore band called Sleepwalkers. And, you know, like with that, like I moved back down to LA, you know, like I decided to start over with school. So like I was back in community college, like taking like all the like beginning classes again, you know, because like the school I went to was unaccredited. So I just like said, fuck this. I'm not even gonna like focus on a degree audit or whatever. So like I just toured, you know, like played like all over California, like pretty much like 3 times like a week, you know, like just like a lot. And then like after a while, like I just started to like get way more into drawing, you know, because like I figured like I put the time into it like already, like with that other school, you know, like I was recognizing that like I'm much better at drawing than I am at playing guitar, you know, like so like my interest just like became more and more involved with drawing. And then eventually got like an internship over at Epitaph, and like I don't know, I just did like reception stuff, and like I was just like begging to do like some type of artwork, anything, you know, like, and then they would have me do like some like online Best Buy ads, you know, like for like whatever album was coming out.
Yeah.
You know, like, and like that was like my intro to like Photoshop, you know. It's like I'm like YouTubing as like I'm trying to like they're telling me to do it, like we need this in like 30 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
So like and then I found out that their art director went to this one school called Art Center, and then, you know, like so I checked that out, you know, like, and then showed like my portfolio of like stuff that I did with like bands, you know, like at that time I had done stuff for Downpresser, Alpha and Omega, you know, like, and like my band Sleepwalkers, but like I was just trying to like, I don't know, take ink drawing more seriously. Like I was like really into like Robert Crumb, you know, like with like his rendering style, you know, like just like, I don't know, like, and then like also like paying attention to like Raymond Pettibon, you know, like who, like at the time, like I was like getting more into like world history and stuff, and, you know, like his political stuff, like became like, I don't know, like I became like way more interested in that, like other than like the stuff he did for like musicians or whatever, you know, like, because like his career fascinates me just because he's someone who came from punk and then was able to explode in a whole another thing and become his own thing, you know, like he's not relying on like another band or anything, you know. But yeah, and then I got into that school, and then you know, like I was just drawing pretty much every day, you know, like not sleeping, you know, like it's like a very intense school, you know. And like I remember one of the assignments was I had to do 100 location drawings a week. So like, but like I was like kind of used to like going to shows like every weekend, you know, like, and, you know, like it sucked having to be in the school cafeteria doing like these drawings. So like I just hit up like some of my old friends and like just get guest listed like on whatever show, and then just bring my sketchbook with me, you know, like, and just do my homework there. You know, like if I'm going to go out, I got to be productive, you know, like that's like the whole mentality. And, you know, like as I start to do them, you know, bands and like everyone would kind of get like stoked about it, because like they had never seen it, you know, like, and I was like coming into it with like the foreknowledge of like Robert Weaver, like Alan E. Kober, you know, like all these people who like would go out on location and draw for like magazines or whatever, like, you know, like, and they were still like getting like a lot of work during like the time of photography, but like that was like the same thing though, like photography was much more faster and quicker, and like you have like way more variety, you know, like whereas like you only have like a few drawings that like happen there on location. But yeah, and then from then just kind of exploded.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different things that I want to unpack there. So we'll versus, you know, just like plowing through some of those things, I want to kind of dive deep into a couple of the things that you brought up. The first being Burnout, which was a game that like soundtrack wise was a real influential thing, because I always hear like Tony Hawk 2 or Tony Hawk 3 for me was big as far as like getting more into that like punk or heavier music. But I haven't thought about just the Burnout games in a long time. I
mean, it was like random track in there, you know?
I think, was it in the first game? Because I think I played Burnout 3. That was the one where you could do like the playback or the replay feature.
Yeah, I think it was in that one, but I know it was the one for the PSP, and the one for PSP was called something different and specific. I don't know. It came out the same year that the Wake the Dead even came out, you know, like that was like part of like their whole promo, like looking back at it.
It's very rare nowadays for those kind of bands to do like promotionals through video games as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like it's still like possible. You know, more and more people are getting into hardcore now, and more people are getting into like video games. It's like one of the biggest industries. You know, it's like I feel like there's like a nostalgia factor to it too. Like with like everyone thinking back on the Tony Hawk thing, that's why he's even coming out with like a new game too. You know, like I don't know, like definitely like the Tony Hawk thing was like a big experience. You know, like I grew up playing video games. You know, like I love them.
Yeah, you know, and like Wake the Dead specifically rings home a little bit more for me because I grew up in Winnipeg, where Comeback Kid is obviously from.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to Comeback Kid, shout out to Burnout. So yeah, like kind of continue on some of the other things that you mentioned. So you said that you got an internship at Epitaph, and that was kind of pure. Was that kind of like you just wanted to kind of get more into like the music industry because you're like, I love bands and shows and like I want to do something and I'm willing to, you know, start small and kind of grind to get to a more creative position, so to speak?
I mean, I wasn't like really I didn't have too much of like a long-term plan with it. It was just more of like my friend was working there, and then like I just like hit her up randomly on social media, like asking about like if there's any internship opportunities, because like I was at like community college, you know, like, and I had like this student loan debt from like the shitty like AI school that was unaccredited. So like I was like fucking like I got to do something like with this shit, you know, like and I don't know, like I felt like that was like the best option, you know, like, and that was like the next move after like playing like in music, you know, like, so it was just like, it was familiar to me, you know, but like I had no idea about the industry, like the internal industry side, you know, like how distribution is, you know, like just like there's a lot to unpack, you know, like, and it's a whole other world that like I've slowly been like learning, you know.
Crazy how like one of your first things was like doing Best Buy banner ads on Photoshop.
It's like for like an Alkaline Trio, and I can't even like remember a few of the names, you know, because like it was an era of Epitaph that I was very unfamiliar with the roster. You know, so like I mean, it was really cool though, like just like being there and like, and just, I don't know, it just made it like, it reinforced my idea to like just keep on going for it, you know, like it just made it seem more legit and more of like a plausible thing. You know, like, I mean, I'm still grinding now, you know, like.
And then the band that you joined at the time, Sleepwalkers, what were you doing in that band? I
played guitar.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I didn't do too much. I came in, you know, like right after they recorded. So like I didn't, I mean, like I was like on the record cover and stuff, but like I wasn't the one that recorded like the songs, you know, like I just kind of like played, like I came in like a little later into the band until like close to the end of it. I mean, like it was crazy. It was a crazy time.
And then so kind of fast forwarding, we're kind of jumping around, but I think as far as so you started to go to school and you had these on-site assignments that you had to do. And just that term on-site assignments, like were there other, like I'm curious what other students were turning in as far as their homework, so to speak.
Like basically it had to be, the subject had to be people, so that way you had to pay attention to poses, you know, like an anatomy, you know, like in the way like slouches or whatever. And everyone, you know, like it's like a school where like you're doing all-nighters pretty much every night, you know, like just like to finish, you know, like, so everyone pretty much just stayed at school and did the work, you know, like, and everyone would just pretty much chill in the cafeteria and just draw people sitting over there, you know, like, and like someone sitting right across from them, or like drawing people in class, you know, like, just like, because it was like a lot of work and you had to chip through it, you know, but like that kind of gets boring, you know, like, well, it got boring to me. And like we were also doing like a lot of like in-class still life models, you know, like where people would be posing, you know, like for like 5 minutes to like 40 minutes or whatever, you know. And that, I don't know, like I wanted to keep drawing interesting to me and like have more of like a challenge with it, you know. So like that's why I just like drawing from like people who have no idea that I'm drawing them, you know, like, but like also being in an area that I'm very familiar and I feel open to experiment with a process,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I
You know,
think
so
there's a lot of things that we can break down here. So like, tell me about the very first show that you went to go draw. Because I always remember the very first show that I went to go film, and obviously like there's been lots of lessons that I've learned as far as placements or where I'm standing specifically. So can you do you remember either where the show was or who the bands were playing and what was going through your mind?
I think it was the first one, I think, was Ceremony with Final Conflict at Los Globos in LA.
Okay.
And like I wasn't planning on it, like, because like I had like a little pocket moleskin and like a small little micron pen, you know, like, which is like, that's a tiny ass like little canvas, you know, like, and you can't even see the line because I have like a 0.5 or whatever.
Sure.
And it just looks really scratchy and like, I don't know. It was just like something like that I wanted to try. And then like at that time, it was also like around the time of like Echo Park Rising, which was like this music festival. And I really liked this band called A La Lost at the time. And like they were like headlining. And I remember like I got there too late. So it was either one of those two shows that was like the first one. And like I remember just drawing the crowd. And then like, because I couldn't get close to like the stage, I was too late. But then like right across the street, like on the sidewalk, this band called The Commons, which is like a really sick like cumbia band, just started playing like on the sidewalk, you know, like, and it was just like packed and everything, you know, like, and then like, I drew that set, and that was probably like the first like serious one where like I'm gonna get this down, you know, because like this is a moment, you know, like, and how I wanted to go about it. It's like I wanted to figure out like what was like the storytelling moment, you know, like what's going on that's specific to, you know, like this moment opposed to like any other show or whatever, you know, like whether it's someone like climbing on top of someone like in front of like this palm tree, you know, like, or like the guitarist like doing some random shit, you know, like I mean, like after that, like it just became like a fun thing to do,
right?
You know, like, and you know, like for a while, like my mentors and everything like didn't really know what to think of it, you know, like it was just like it's cool or whatever, you know, like until like I started to like, I don't know, like I'd probably do like 30 bad drawings and occasionally come out with like something that like looks cool or whatever, you know, and then like that would be my argument to them to like keep it going as homework, you know, because like basically, I don't know, I was still like in a very...
Were they considering that it wasn't homework, that you were just like going to these shows?
Well, I mean, that's like the whole thing. Like they were trying to make that argument, and then like I made the argument back because like I just basically recited like what the assignment was for the week or whatever, right. You know, like, and I'm doing it in my own way with everything that you're saying in consideration, you know, so like I'm still doing the work, you know, just that my subject is this,
yeah,
you know, like, and yeah, I mean, like it after a little while, I started to like win like scholarship awards for like the drawings, you know, like, and I just kept on going with that. And then like, it just, I don't know, like my school like rewarded me with like a studio right away, you know, like with like there's 6 studios and like a couple hundred students, you know, like illustration students trying to get a spot, you know, like, wow, and it's like
crazy. Then
like being sent to like, I don't know, I just felt like what I was doing was, I don't know, it just felt right, you know?
Yeah. There was like some sauce to it. You're like, there's something here.
Yeah, you know, like, and it was just like, it just happened. I don't know, like it put me in a position where like I was behind like some of my favorite bands, like right behind like the drummer, and, you know, like just drawing, you know, like, and seeing like Bane's last LA show, you know, like holy shit, you know, like I'm like right there, like I just had like the best spot like possible, you know, like, and like I'm really fortunate for like everyone like involved like in like the like LA scene, like, and just like anyone who I've like even come across, you know, like they've been very, very kind and like just like let me like trust me to like let me do like my thing, and like really like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get to like the best compositional view, because like once I
Yeah.
start, like I can't move, like if I move like a little bit right here, my perspective's changed, like,
Right.
so like I have to like fucking like stay and like be sure about my spot for each
Yeah.
set,
Yeah, there's an interesting thing there, because you were saying your fellow students were like, if they were just drawing in the cafeteria and they were sitting across from someone, they could decide, well, this person's halfway through their grilled cheese or whatever it is, I can still move and get like a different angle and restart the drawing.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like that would happen a lot with like a lot of different people.
yeah, but the thing with hardcore is like, if the band's about to start and you're in a certain spot and you need to get to a certain area, you either have to kind of like quickly maneuver your way, or like you're like, well, I guess I'm going to be here for this set.
Yeah, I mean, like I've definitely started over like halfway through the set a couple of times, like more than a couple of times,
Sure.
But like one of like the early lessons that happened was, I think, I don't know, maybe like around 3 months of like into drawing bands. Like I was drawing Bane and Turnstile at the Echoplex, and I think it was during Turnstile's set, but like I had just gotten there like right when Turnstile started, and I go to like the right side of the pit, kind of like maybe like 5 feet from the stage, so it was just a fucking bad spot, like because like it's just like people are like crowd killing, like, and out of nowhere, like I just like get my spot, I'm trying to draw, and then some dude just fucking comes in and elbows me like right in my brow, like, and I'm like just like gushing blood for a minute. I go to the back bathroom, and I remember Benji from Rotting Out coming in, like he's like seeing me, he's like, "Hey fool, you all right?" Like I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm cool." And then like I wait, I'm like dazed for like a moment, when like I come back outside, and then like one of my other friends, he just comes in, he's like, "Damn," like because he saw like the whole thing,
Right?
And then like he had like a lime ready and just like squirted my eyebrow real quick, like to disinfect it, like, and then
who's
like
got
just, like,
a lime on them just ready to go?
Oh, he was just like ready, like he had like a beer, like and lime ready for me,
Oh, he probably had like a Corona, and then he's like, "Nope,
yeah,
we're gonna." That's
yeah,
hilarious.
man. I mean, like, yeah. So like after that, I just made it a point to try to be on stage, or to like just like really scope out like the vibe of the crowd, like, and where I can go, like in the venue, like, and then also like like I just ask, like, because like the worst they could say is just no. Like if it's no, it's no. Like I'll ask like the band, like, "Hey, is it cool if I like go like right over there, like on the side, so I could draw?" And like pretty much every time it's been cool.
And I think there's a interesting thing here where like if you're documenting a band on a video side, it's kind of like you're capturing every single moment, but if you're doing it on photos, you're getting like just instant pieces,
like snapshots.
Yeah, snapshots. That's a better way to say it. But the thing for you is, when you're documenting a set, you're essentially creating one piece of content for an entire set. So how are you, like, do you normally start with the crowd first, and then you're like, I'm going to do the bass player, I'm going to do the drummer? Like, what's kind of the process?
No, I start with the things that don't move.
Sure.
I start with architecture. Can you hear me? Sorry, I was like cutting out for a sec. Okay.
Ironically, it was like, I start with the things that don't move, and then we froze up.
Yeah, exactly.
Architecture, you were saying.
Yeah, architecture that's like above like the head level, and like maybe like above like arm level, and then but like architecture that's specific to the venue, because like, and then amps or something, like that, where like no one's gonna go in front of that, like, so like that way I could create my measuring points, like, and I just create like triangles everywhere, and just like, like I just kind of like pay attention to like the geometry of like the composition of like what like the head level is, and like the lights and all that, or whatever I want to focus on, and then I'll focus on the guitarist, and like, because like pretty much every musician, they have like their go-to moves or whatever, like they cycle through them like eventually, and they're going to be in the one area like for a while. So like I'll start on someone, and then like if they move somewhere else, I'll go to someone else, and then like I'll start working on the drum set, like, and then like I just kind of bounce around between everybody, like based off like where like there's centrally located, but like I'm really just trying to pay attention to to their movements first because they're in front of me. And then after that, I focus in on the crowd, like what happens like randomly, like if there's like someone doing some crazy ass jump, like I'll just try to do it real quick and not get it right away, but like I have that marked down like as like a reminder. So like I'm working with ink, so like there's like no erasing. So like like that's what makes it easy to see on like in horrible lighting. It's just like black against white. It's like just contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. To even break it down where it's like if you're watching a band and there's like, okay, Tony who's playing guitar loves to punk jump, so I'm going to do him as like in a punk jump, and he hopefully is going to do enough that I can kind of reference and draw. But Scott who plays bass is kind of like a statue, so he'll be kind of in the solitary kind of position, so to speak.
Exactly.
When you're trying to capture those moments of someone diving, like how many seconds do you think you have to kind of scribble at least the outline?
It just takes one line, really. Like if I get, it's like maybe like a contour edge, or it could be like the line of the back, like just like something that like showcases an angle. And like people do it enough, like if one person doesn't do it multiple times, there's going to be someone else that does. Right. And like I grew up stage diving too. Like I'm very familiar with like the types of poses, and like I don't know, like I could kind of phone it in like a lot of time. Like sometimes I would be specific with the people in the crowd, but like other times, like depending on like how far back or whatever like catches my eye, like I'll just be generalizing it, like and just try to like play with perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an ongoing thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. But it's kind of like the unsaid thing, at least with like, filming, drawing, or taking photos of bands, is like there are so many variables with every show. Like every band is different, every venue is different. Depending on who's doing the lighting is going to be different.
Exactly.
Is it a venue where the show is like a last show and it's just absolutely packed, so maybe it's like harder to get in certain areas, or maybe it's like not as big of a show and there's kind of more wiggle room to move around?
I think like later on, as I was doing it, like I became much more selective about the shows that I was covering. Mm-hmm. And the sets that I was covering. So like if it was gonna be like a last show, record release, or like anything like that was like kind of special, like a secret show, like I wanted to be there, mm-hmm. Like I don't want to document that, because like I felt like I was making the point that like I'm making his, I don't know, like I have like this view of it, like just because like it's something that I've thought about a lot, but like I feel like I'm making, like music, like documents, like physical, like historical documents, because like these drawings were done on stage, like there's no other drawing, like it's just like one little piece, like mm-hmm. I feel like I don't know, like I started to take it much seriously, so like that's why like the shows I wanted to cover had to be like more specific, and I'd be much more focused and have like a strong intent to do like the best I could possibly do. But like, of course, like sometimes I fuck up and get pissed off, mm-hmm. Like, and then just have to start over, and like, and maybe like the drawing that was a warm-up drawing was like the best one, like, but yeah, I mean, like now, like I'm just, I don't know, I've done about like 3,000 of them now.
Wow.
Like I've filled up 10, like I'm on my possibly last book. Like there's, I don't know, a couple pages left, like, and now like with, like what's going on now with like that quarantine and shit, like who knows when I'm going to be drawing another show.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as like, as far as like distribution, like I'm always kind of curious about that, like as far as how people are sharing those things with the world. Cause like there's I would say a fair amount on your Instagram, but like I had no idea that you had done into the thousands of live set drawings. So is there a place that people can go to like look at those, or do you kind of premiere those in like more of a physical like art show, so to speak?
I mean, right now I'm like here, I got all the books like right here. Oh. Like this is pretty much like all of them right here. So like,
Jeez.
I'm going through each one from like the beginning to end and cataloging right now. So like, I'm just like in the process of doing that, and I'll eventually have them all available, like, and like all of, like, to like look at or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like right now, like, I've got plenty of time to like just do that. You know, like, there's no rush to this. You know, like for me, like it's something I've been doing for like the past couple of years. You know, like that I don't really get paid to do. You know, like just I don't know. I get paid in like an awesome experience, I guess, but like I don't know.
It's not currently.
I feel like it's a moment that like I'm not. Well, it was gonna get to that point, and then fuck, you know, just the timing of everything that happened. You know, like, but yeah, I mean, I was getting to that point. You know, like now, like with like covering like bigger and bigger bands. You know, like just starting to take it outside of just hardcore. You know, like, and I don't know, because like there's like plenty of people who like make a living like covering like this stuff, you know, like, or even just documenting in general.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I feel like I've developed like the skill to make this a full-on profession. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely we definitely live in a time, at least on a creative side, where there's no better time in history on how artists can be supported, whether that's through like, you know, like premiering your stuff on Instagram and then people can buy it, or if there's a Patreon or stuff like that. But there is a weird balance of like, you know, not selling out isn't the best term, but like, you know, providing enough value up front so that when you do a little bit like of an ask, like, hey, I want to do this full time, I want to make art and content for the world, that it feels appropriate.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I'm working full time. I mean, I'm just doing this full time, but like I'm not. The band work specifically isn't, you know, like the most profitable thing for me. So like I do like album covers or like single covers or merch or like editorial stuff and like or commission paintings. You know, so like I'm full on just painting and drawing.
Yeah.
You know, like so like the band stuff, like I've given it like a lot of my time, you know, like, and a lot of my effort, you know, like, and if once like I want to like release it in the right way.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't like I had it all on my Instagram for a while, you know, like, and then, you know, like, oh, I figured out like a different way to put in the type, you know, it's like I repost it and like, you know, like it's just like I'm trying to figure out that formula to like present it, you know, still, you know, like that, like I feel really confident about. But I mean, like I don't know, they'll live on through the internet. You know, like at some point.
Yeah, and maybe you can kind of. Well, the first thing I wanted to ask before I forget was just talking about the. Well, I wanted to ask as far as like, because I think there's maybe a hesitancy with some people when it comes to creating art or any kind of like create or pursuing a creative endeavor, whether that's in hardcore or not. And I'm just kind of curious if like, you know, like there were people at the beginning who were like super like down for the idea for me to start filming bands. And then like, as I started to maybe make a little bit more traction, there was still people who were down, but like other people who were like, oh, like, why do you have to film every show? Or why do you got to film every song? So I'm just kind of curious if you had any of that, at least from a drawing standpoint, like not naysayer, so to speak. And I asked that because I hope that the conversations around that can maybe encourage someone to maybe like pursue that idea that they've had for a long time.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like I would draw one, like every band, like if I were to like just do like a warm up, you know, because like it's kind of like muscle memory for me. So like I have to like physically warm up, and like I don't know, like for a while, like I just be like really into like drawing like whatever show, you know, because like every band has like a moment where like it's fucking sick, you know, like, and I don't know, like that's what like I love about like live music. It's like there's always gonna be like a surprise, like a possibility of a surprise, you know.
Sure.
And but like after a while, you know, like I would go to shows and it would be expected that I was gonna draw, you know, like, and that's something like I don't know, it really turned me off. You know, like I didn't want it to become work in a sense, you know, like where I don't know, like I felt like it got to a point where like it was becoming gimmicky. At least like I don't know, like that's how I thought about it in like in my own head, you know, like I'm sure, I don't know, but like I just felt like I needed to like slow down and, you know, like focus on working in different ways, you know, like, and I don't know, like just come to it like when it just felt right, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's just like through mileage, I guess.
Yeah. And there is a weird thing where they're like, and I've experienced that too, where it's like, you know, feeling like filming bands has become more of a chore than like a passion. And
yeah,
I think for me is like, there have been shows that I've gone to like earlier on that I wasn't filming, or I was only filming like one band, and then I would miss something and it would be like, it would just irk me. And then that's why I would be like, oh man, like I kind of wish. So there, it's kind of like, I don't think it's always landing in the middle as far as always feeling the best about it. But I, you know, there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, I filmed all those bands, and maybe in the moment I don't feel like it was worth my time, but at the same time, like I'm really happy that I filmed that show. It is a weird thing. I think a big thing is like, you know, I could stop everything scope related tomorrow, and
exactly.
I know like there would be some people who'd be upset, but like it's a weird thing when someone has created something and then you feel like, you know, it fulfills you to like make content and to do art and things like that. But at the same time, when there's an expectation, and especially when it's just like for them and not for you, that's where, you know, there could be some misunderstandings.
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of like the whole thing. But I mean, like I feel like that's like a constant, I don't know, like internal battle for me. You know, like where like I'm trying to consider the viewer versus my own perspective on it. You know,
sure.
Like, and if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. You know, like, but like, I don't know, like if I'm not in the mood to do it, like I don't want to do it. It's like having, like if you're a writer, you know, like being forced to just like do like some type of assignment, you know, like when you just don't feel like doing it, you know, like it's just, there's an internal struggle, like constantly, you know, like with like any type of creative pursuit, I feel, you know, like,
yeah.
But like if you want to like document a show, you know, like fucking document a show, you know, like, because like the worst that it could be is it's practice.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you're still going to be growing from it, you know, like you go through like the experience of it, you know, like you learn what you don't like and then you adjust.
Yeah. And I think like not judging yourself is a big thing as well. Like there was multiple times last year when shows were happening all the time outside of Calgary, like maybe in Vancouver or Edmonton, and I was trying to figure out a way that I could be there, and the only way that it could happen is like if the promoter wanted it filmed, and I was like, well, like right now I don't have the funds to like front the money. Like if you want to do like halvesies, or if you confront it or whatever. And sometimes they would say no, and then I would feel bad about not filming that. But at the end of the day, it's like this person wanted it and they couldn't, like I was here and they couldn't help me get there. And then it's not my fault if it didn't get documented.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just an example of like coming through a roadblock, you know, like that makes you question like if you want to even keep on doing this, you know, like I feel like I mean, like the worst that can happen is a no, and that's not that bad, you know, like because the whole thing is you're still making contact, you know, like you annoy them enough, you know, they'll eventually say yes or keep you in mind like for like the right time, you know, like I don't know, like it's just gotta be kind, you know, like recognize their position too, and you're like, but
yeah,
you know, like, I don't know. I think like that's what the hustle is, you know, is going through the nose.
Yeah.
And just keep on trying.
Yeah. I think like matching your like actions to your ambition is like really key. Cause if you just want to, you know, I'm just going to draw or I'm going to film or take photos at whatever show or for my homies bands, that's awesome. Like that's cool. Like just because you show up at the gig and you have some amount of creative ability doesn't like force you to just give all your energy and time into the scene. But if you want to make a name for yourself, if you want to have that as your full-time thing, then absolutely you should be busting your balls to like really get things out and do a lot of work. Like 3,000 drawings of different sets, like that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess over time, yeah. I don't know. Like I think the most important thing for me is just to keep on following like my curiosity. You know, like if I'm like curious about something, I want to like learn more about it. You know, like I don't want to like, I don't know, like there's like a hunger to like know it. You know, like and understand it. And you know, like I felt like I kind of like, I don't know, like with like the band stuff, like I kind of like filled it for me. You know, like the only like I've experienced, I don't know, I it's taken me in some like dream-like scenarios for myself. You know, like being like escorted like to like the side stage of like the Misfits at the fucking Bank of California, you know, like stadium. You know, like when like I don't know, like and like all I had was my book. You know, like, and I don't know, like I didn't have a pass or anything, like, so like after a while, like security like kind of like saw me and like told me to move, you know, like, but like, I don't know, like it's just like I feel very fortunate for like everything that's come across that like I've been able to do like through this process.
Yeah.
But I also feel right now that I gotta like explore something else, you know, like I don't know, like, and I think that's like something that, you know, like may not be for everybody, you know, like, but like to like, don't be afraid to drop something that you know is successful and try something that you suck.
Yeah.
You know, like, cause I don't know, I really enjoy that aspect or like that process of like just realizing I'm getting better at something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I love video games, you know, like video games, like you constantly level up and you do like crazier and crazier shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a key thing as well. Like, for the longest time, I wanted to start this podcast even. And like, we're almost so fatigued with the amount of shows that we were filming that we finally were like, okay, we're going to film this pilot episode in the summer. And then by the time it was like, we had banked a couple episodes and we got everything all ready to go, it was like closer to the end of the year that it was like launched. And, and now with this whole like quarantine thing, now it's like, this is the thing that's kind of helping get us through this time. But honestly, like I'm having a blast being able to chat with people all the way in California or wherever they are in the world, just about like things around music. So if I didn't like, you know, actually like sacrifice some time as far as like editing a set or whatever to like, okay, I have to figure out this thing. And, you know, I'm sure people, day oneers of the podcast have seen it progressively get better as far as how I ask questions or auto quality wise or whatever. So yeah, I think, you know, if you have an itch, like explore that itch.
Yeah. Cause like there's so many like lessons in that mileage, you know, like you'll learn if you really do like that thing that you're doing, or if you don't, you know, like, and you know, like, I don't know, like, I feel like once like you start to see like the numbers grow, you know, like it just feels like I got this, you know, like, like it just, I don't know, it feels more natural.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
At least that's how I think.
Yeah. And like not getting stuck in the mentality of like, oh, I can only do this thing because it gets traction on social media.
No, I think that's a trap, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's some people that are like really good who like specialize, you know, but like everything else that you're doing is going to influence and make the other thing grow, you know, like, cause I may like for me, like I may stop like drawing bands for a while and may focus on something else. But
Sure.
you know, like when I return to that, you know, like it's not gonna be like I'm like I don't know what I'm doing. You know, like I'm gonna be coming into it with like a different headspace. You know, like I don't know. I think it's just everything influences all experience, like builds up. You know.
Yeah. And like I personally was like a big fan when Instagram like hid likes, because it's like, okay, people can actually like be creative as to what they post, because they're not going to feel like, oh, well, people are only going to see 10 likes versus if I do this one thing and it's going to get 80 or 100 or whatever.
Well, I think the way social media has kind of like impacted, you know, like the way we produce work, you know, like, and like the scarcity of not getting likes versus, you know, like being like a hit or whatever. And, you know, like, I don't know, like that's kind of like sketchy to me. Like it just, I feel like it's something that's made it possible for everyone to be their own celebrity, you know, like whereas like 10 years before, you know, like everyone craved to be a celebrity, or like there's like a huge population or whatever, like a general thought that you want to be popular, you know, like, and this social media kind of like filled that, but at the same time it's just, I think it's, I don't know, a little fucked up and with what it does to your head, you know, like I don't know, like because like I even find like with myself, like I'm like wondering like what should I post, you know, like I don't want to post like a shitty drawing now, like versus like something else, because I want to work with that algorithm, you know, like and make it grow or whatever, you know, like, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like that wasn't part of my thought process a couple of years ago. You know, like when it came to just like making something, I think that could impede a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, like
that. Yeah, that's true. And I think like a weird thing, at least for my creative project, is like there's sometimes I film an entire show of bands, and maybe necessarily I don't fuck with every single one of those bands. But I know that set is going to be important to at least the band, maybe the friends of that band.
You never ever know what a band's going to grow into. You know, like you could have like a shitty ass like origin like set, you know, like, and then like a couple years later, like they're like headliners. Right. You know, like, I don't know, like that's kind of like the whole cool thing, you know, like everyone sucks when they first start. Yeah.
And like not even thinking about like certain things being picked up years and years after. And like the thing is like I know roughly like kind of the audience that I have, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna post this set. I know it's not gonna do super hot, but like to me that's not important. The point is like I'm getting this off of my plate and I'm putting it out into the world, and the world is gonna decide, you know, what it does, and then, you know, after I'm gonna do something else that's maybe more in line with that. So I think totally being okay with like even doing something that you know isn't gonna get a ton of like fuck likes, honestly. Like just post what you want and post it for yourself, and that should be the game plan, in my opinion.
I mean, it should be, but that's so hard because it's already like super ingrained, you know, like I don't know, because I still like I gotta get the fucking likes, you know, even though like I'm like aware of it or whatever, you know, like I feel like it's just, I don't know. I think it takes some willpower to like really get into that mentality. Which I hope to one day get to, but
well,
right now I'm not there.
I think that mentality is like a muscle. Like you need to, like, you can't just like pick up the crazy weights and start like getting jacked. Like it's practicing that, like actually posting and being like, okay, like gonna do this again tomorrow. But
exactly. I mean, like you're just reinforcing, you know, like your own routines, you know? And like that's the main thing.
I'm super stoked on some of these shots. So to go back to the band drawings, so your regular, what you're bringing to a show as far as the tools for what you're creating, can you get a little nerdy as far as the types of pens and paper? Because I'm sure there might be a couple people who are like wanting to know what your mediums are.
I use the Pentel ink brush pens. They're like they get like a little gray cartridge, you know, like, and it's just like a little synthetic brush, you know, like where you just squeeze it, you know, like, and just fills the cartridge, and then like you just go to town, you know. Or if you want the dry brush, you know, like it's water soluble too, so like you mix it with water, you know, like, and just, you know, get all your values. Like I mainly just use those because like I like the ink, you know, like I just really like the brush, you know, like there's like a line that I could get on it that like I just like really love it. Like it reminds me of like the Metal Gear Solid like artwork, you know, like
Right.
that, like, oh my God, like it's just like I'm gonna fucking do that, you know, like. And I use like I get really, I have like these specific sketchbooks that like I kind of like modify like by building like my own hardcover, like with like tape, you know, like.
Oh, okay.
And you know, like, so that way like it didn't tear. I've had a sketchbook tear on me at a show, you know, but like now like they're like road ready, you know. But like it's Coptic stitched,
they're mosh resistant.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's Coptic stitched, so like every page lies flat, you know, like, which is like the main thing, you know, because like I don't know, I personally don't like it like when like there's like a dip in a sketchbook and then like you have to like work. I don't know. Like, that looks
you end up flattening it anyways.
Yeah, you know, it's like no matter what, like I have like a good flat space, you know, like, and it's backed by like something hard, so like it's just like stiff, you know, like, and like I'll be like holding it really tight to my chest, maybe like really close to like my face, you know, like just my hands really like just like above like the paper, you know, like being really stiff, because like if someone like bumps into me, I'm like a fucking pole, and like you just like move with the crowd, you know, like like if you move with the crowd and you're not gonna like bounce around, and it's not going to create like a reinforcement. So like I have to like just be very aware of everyone around me, you know, like, and just draw when I can, you know, like, because I don't know, like there's definitely moments where like some person's gonna like come stage dive or just like, you know, like just break the momentum for me. Like I just like I pause, put up my pen, you know, like maybe like get the ink on my face a little bit because I get hit, and then just go back into it and just try to finish out the drawing. Because like I only have to the end of the set, you know, like, and once that set's done, you know, like the drawing's done. Yeah,
that was one of my next questions, as far as like there's some stuff that I've seen on your Instagram right now where it's like it's like unfinished, so to speak. Like maybe someone's face is just kind of like a line, but then it kind of ends. But that's like you said, like the set's over, and then what I got is what I got. Do you normally default for that? And then are there some cases where you have taken it into the studio, or is that dependent on maybe the band has asked you, so you want to put in more time and effort into it?
No, the bands have never like asked me to like go more into it or anything. Like it's more of like there'll be like sets where like I feel like I got it, you know, like
sure.
But there's like other sets where like if it's like a band that like I really want to do something good, you know, like, and I know I don't have it, like, and it's like last song, I'll just get out my phone and then like I'll record like the whole last song, and then like I'll just work from that video, and then like I'll just do like a full on piece, you know, like like with like color or whatever, you know, like and do that in the studio. But like I try to do that like immediately after or whenever, but I made the main composition and like a lot of the key components of the piece are done on location. Yeah.
Like, so maybe the best example of that is like that No Warning set that you drew.
Yeah.
Cause I noticed what's really cool with your work is that you'll show the finish, and then you'll show the actual show, just like a little video on your phone.
Yeah, that's like the clip I'll be working from.
Yeah. So that makes sense knowing that now, because I think the No Warning one, the vocalist had like his fist up, and then in the video he's doing that. So I was like, oh, okay. So like but when you see like the video of what you're referencing, a lot of the outline stuff that you mentioned, like the architecture, has already been set, and you know, like you're just working off of that. You're not like starting from scratch to like
exactly
line up certain things.
Yeah, because then like otherwise it's like it loses the point to me. I guess, you know, like because like I wanted to like always feel like I could try to take something further, or I don't know, just like that drawing was like from like last year's Sound and Fury, and like I didn't work on it until like this past weekend, and I don't know, like it's just there's some sets where like I gotta finish it now, and like I just like have that thought in my head and I'm just thinking about it. And then there's just like others where like I know it could be good, like I could see the potential in it, like, but I know it's just gonna be a lot of work, and I just gotta find the right time for that,
Yeah,
But,
and the thing with like documenting, especially on average, especially if you live in California, if there's like 4 bands per show and there's like a show every weekend, like that adds up really, really fast.
yeah. I mean, like there's definitely been times where I've had to pick and choose which show. Like I'm very fortunate to be here.
Yeah. I'm always making sure people in California know how lucky they are as far as the nature of how active hardcore is out there. Do you have a favorite set that you like, all time favorite that you've drawn?
Well, for sure Have Heart, but I think before that was Rotting Out's last show, which was before the band broke, or like right when like the band broke up, before they came back.
Right.
And like it was just like, I think for that show it just felt like I was in one of those YouTube videos that like I saw on YouTube that like I would get chills from watching,
Right.
Like how like there's like some of those like sets that you just see, like I just like, I wish I was there, because like, and like I was like there, like it was just so hot, so sweaty, like really like an emotional set. And then like I don't know, like I remember like just sweat dripping from my face onto the page, and just like kind of covered it, and it made it kind of like smear a bit, like, so like it became like a real like element of the drawing,
Interesting.
And like I felt like I got like, it was a very minimal drawing, but like it got like everyone down, I felt.
Sure.
And then the Have Heart one was just because like, like that to me, like that was like also like one of my like top, like, but I had never seen them, like I was in my senior year and they were breaking up, and they played a bunch of like Last California shows. I didn't have a credit card or anything, so I couldn't buy tickets, like, and like I didn't have a car. Like I had to do a lot of shit in order to graduate, like, and I just couldn't go. And like I just like always regretted it, like, and like their last show was like one of those like videos where like I just got chills watching it,
Right. Well,
and
like you said, like, oh man, I would love to be there. And I'm sure there's maybe at least one person who's like listening or watching who's like, yeah, like different kind of energy in that room for those kinds of things. Straight
up, like, because like I hear like comedians talk about how like a stand-up special is nothing compared to seeing it live, like it's a way different energy, like it's for a show, dude, like I don't know, like you're part of it, like when you're there.
Yeah, 100%.
Like when they played like the reunion sets at Sound and Fury, like I hit them up, like I hit up like Sound and Fury, like I was like, I gotta like draw this show, I gotta, like I felt like I'd gotten so many under my belt where like I felt like I could do like something good, like I felt like I was training for this moment, like
this is your boss fight, so to speak.
Yeah, dude, like, and like when they're about to go up, like for like their first set, everyone's clearing the stage, everyone like and then like I hear, Chuy, where do you want to go, like, and then like I just pick my spot, like I get first choice as to like where I want to go, because there's gonna be like photographers everywhere and the stage is gonna get packed eventually, so like I was like I got to choose like my spot, like for like this, like the set that I've been like waiting 10 years to do.
Wow.
Like to like even like witness, like, and I'm like right next to the amp, and like I don't know, dude, like I still get chills like watching like my own videos of it, like I definitely like recorded, like a few of my own like full songs, like, and I don't know, like, and then the drawing came out great, like I really like that drawing.
Yeah,
but those two for sure. And then just, I mean, like there's been like other ones, but like those two, like for me personally, were like the biggest ones.
Yeah. And like it's cool to kind of have those like being able to see those things through after, like there's I don't try to have a laundry list as far as bands that I hope to film one day, but there's some key ones that I want to check off, but before this thing has run its course.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'd never thought I would draw Devo, like I don't know, like, I feel like there's always gonna be a potential reunion set.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, it's been done too many times. Too many people have said we're not coming back, and then they come back.
True.
Like,
yeah. Supply and demand is like is a big thing. There's one band that I don't want to say it out loud because maybe there's a fear that it won't happen. But yeah. Cool. Well, Chuy, this has been a great conversation. I'm super stoked that we got to touch on a lot of different things, and like I said before we started recording, I'm a major fan. As soon as I saw it, I was blown away by what you do.
Thank you, man.
The way that I like to kind of wrap up the podcast here is a favorite show or mosh story that you could tell. And that doesn't necessarily need to be like you like hit someone, but I'm sure by the amount of shows that you've drawn, you've seen a fair number of things, and maybe you've been the victim of a number of things as well. So whatever's top of mind for you for like a kind of a send-off story.
Maybe Violation's last show at Sound and Fury. It was just fucking wild. Like, that year's Sound and Fury, they had like some like fake barricades or whatever, like to divide up the stages. And as soon as like their set started, like it's just fully packed, and like it's just wild, and like the barricades like go flying down, like, and they just, I don't know, like I really was into that band like during that time, and like I don't know, like that was like a crazy time, but like that whole Sound of Fury was just wild. I don't know, like I don't know, man.
That's a good story. So
things.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's always things that I'm sure when you're listening or watching this back, you're like, oh, I should have said this, but like, there's
I'm definitely gonna be thinking that.
There's always going to be like that one story that we tell, but you told so many good ones already. How do people keep up with you on social media or anything, or to check out your art?
Pretty much just on Instagram, at Chuy Hartman, just my name. And I'll eventually post up a website or something where like everything will be available, but that's still in the works. But so for now, it's just like Instagram.
Yeah, and then it will be on the screen here. But as far as the audio listeners, it's at ChuyHartman.
Yes.
Gotcha. Sweet. Well, Chuy, again, this has been a blast. I'm super stoked that there, is someone out there being as creative as you are with a piece of paper at shows. So definitely go check out his stuff, go support him. And thanks again for coming on the podcast. This has been a blast.
Thank you.